The river ran smooth and silent, as if it knew something the people didn't. In the heart of Africa, where Burundi meets the rush of time and nature, the Ruzizi River wound its way through villages and forests, its waters both life and threat. By day, children played at its edge, their laughter carried on warm breezes. Women crouched at its shallows washing clothes, and men cast nets in hopes of a lucky catch. But beneath the surface, hidden beneath the illusion of peace, lurked a force of pure instinct and unshakable terror, a creature too large for the imagination and too real to ignore. His name was Gustave. Gustave wasn't simply a crocodile. He was something beyond nature's rulebook. Eyewitnesses claimed he was over 20 feet long, possibly heavier than 1,000 kilograms. His head was the size of a man's torso. His eyes, dark and calm, carried no mercy, no hesitation. His jaws, when they clamped down, could crack bone as if it were dry twigs. But it wasn't his size alone that made him legendary. It was the number of lives he had taken. No one knows when Gustave first appeared, but the stories began spreading in the 1980s. At first they were rumors, then missing persons, then bloodied shorelines, and soon full villages began to speak in whispers of a monstrous crocodile who killed not out of hunger, but as though it were sport. Victims weren't always devoured. Their bodies, mangled and lifeless, were sometimes found floating in silence or buried in the muddy reeds. Fishermen spoke of shadows in the water. Children were dragged from riverbanks. Women vanished as they bent to gather water. By the 1990s, Gustave had become more than a threat. He was a phantom, a ghost with teeth, a name spoken only in fear. Locals believed he had killed more than 300 people. Some say it was 400, others more. But numbers didn't matter. What mattered was the silence that followed a scream, the splash that echoed across the water, the ripple left behind by jaws that never missed. He did not stalk animals. He stalked humans, and the people could feel it. Gustave bore the marks of war. His body was scarred and thick-skinned. Hunters had shot him. Trappers had failed. Some said he had survived a grenade blast. A bullet wound was etched across his shoulder. Another scar zigzagged across his jaw. Nothing stopped him. He was more than muscle and hunger. He was cunning. He learned. He waited. He knew the smell of bait and the shape of a trap. And he always returned to the water. Deeper, darker, more feared. The international world began to hear whispers of him. Scientists were skeptical. Journalists intrigued. But one man dared to follow the shadow. Patrice Fay, a French naturalist who had lived in Burundi and spent years hearing the same story told with the same terrified eyes. Patrice was no fool. He believed in evidence, and the evidence came. Drag marks on the riverbank, mutilated remains, enormous footprints, and eventually, glimpses of the beast himself. Patrice saw him with his own eyes, and his heart nearly stopped. In 2004, National Geographic sent a team to document what had become a living legend. They called it Capturing the Killer Croc. Armed with cameras, steel traps, and satellite gear, they set out not just to find Gustave, but to catch him alive. A custom-built steel cage, strong enough to hold a truck, was assembled by the water's edge. Inside it, they placed meat: goat, cow, pig, fresh and bleeding. Motion sensors, infrared cameras, night vision equipment. They used everything. And then, they waited. Days passed, then weeks. Storms came. Heat returned. The cameras recorded bats, birds, frogs, but not Gustave. The trap remained untouched, as if the monster knew he was being hunted, as if he was laughing at the humans trying to outwit him. Then, one night it happened. A camera caught him. The footage was grainy, but the size of the creature was unmistakable. Gustave rose slowly from the water, towering, his back ridged and gleaming like wet armor. He moved toward the trap with the confidence of a king. He sniffed. He paused. He examined. Then, with terrifying calmness, he turned and slid back into the water. He never touched the meat, never set off the trap. He was too smart. To this day, no one has ever captured Gustav. No one has tagged him, studied him, or removed him from the wild. His movements were unpredictable. Sometimes he would vanish for months, then reappear 50 miles away, striking again, leaving behind broken bodies and shattered lives. Whole communities changed their lives because of him. People moved homes, fishermen quit, entire families stopped using the river. The government considered military intervention. But how do you hunt a ghost that swims? Was Gustav a mutant? Was he ancient, hundreds of years old? Was he just a crocodile who had grown too large, too clever, too used to the taste of flesh? Or was he something else? A force of nature, a reflection of humanity's arrogance in thinking the world belongs to us. Because in those dark waters, Gustav made one thing clear. This world still has corners untouched by reason, ruled only by instinct and terror. Years passed. The sightings dwindled. Some say he died in 2009. Others say he migrated to a quieter part of the Congo. A few believe he is still alive, too old to kill, resting somewhere in the reeds of a forgotten marsh. But even in silence, his legend grows. To this day, children in Burundi are told to stay away from the river. Not because of stories, but because of something real. Something that once came from the depths and proved that monsters don't need myths to exist. They only need time. In a world where satellites can map cities and drones can scan mountains, where every corner of the globe is under a lens, Gustav reminds us that we have not conquered everything. That there are still creatures we cannot track, forces we cannot tame. That nature is older, wilder, more ruthless than we'll ever admit. He never roared. He never stood on two legs or breathed fire. But he was a monster nonetheless, a real one. The kind that makes you question your place in the world. The kind that doesn't need words to haunt you. Just water and silence. And maybe tonight, somewhere in the wetlands, where no light reaches and the water flows slow and still, Gustav waits. Not because he's hungry, but because he remembers.